Hi, and welcome to this Power Talk for Remarkable Females. My name is Helena de Munk, and I'm your host. And our topic of today is something that is very close to me also in this moment. It is about, or the title is, You Already Have a Book in You, How Female Leaders Can Share Their Story. And I am thrilled to be here today with Sue Kennedy. Sue Kennedy is the founder and CEO of Author Academy. And with over 3 decades of book coaching, publishing, speaking, and most importantly, real life in the trenches business experience, her view is radically different. Sue appreciates and shares with listeners with us today that writing your story is a journey that allows you to access your untapped, forgotten, or ignored passions and energies that will get you moving. And her vision is that everybody has a book inside of them. It's just how we share our story that counts. So welcome, Sue. I am thrilled to have you here with us. How are you?
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Helena. It's an absolute pleasure to be here with you.
You're welcome. We had some conversations beforehand. I was on your podcast a couple of months ago already. Time flies. And we had some conversations also because I am in the process of writing a book. And so what you tell us a little bit more, because I gave you that introduction, but what does it mean in essence, what you do as a book coach, and especially with your unique original vision on it?
So thank you. Yes, I absolutely love the role of a book coach because what I do is, and I am known for as the people whisperer, because I actually we tap into the story of my client. So whoever the client is at the time, we can really tap into the true story that needs to come out, because often I get a lot of people that will come to me and say, oh, this is the book I want to write. And then all of a sudden we might get a little way in or even halfway sometimes, and they go, I don't think this is the story I'm meant to be writing. And I go, okay, let's lean in and just, talk about this for a minute. And then once we delve into it a bit deeper, we then do find that story that is meant to be told. And we don't completely get rid of the story they've started, because that could just be another book from another time. Or maybe it's a part of the book that they are meant to write. So we then, work on that. And I've got other various ways that I can actually help bring that story to life and to the light, because a lot of people, are stuck and don't quite understand how to find that story that is dying to be told.
Yeah, that so resonates with me, Sue, because, when I work with women leaders in coaching and transformational growth, very often they also come with a question or something they want to work on. And then when we have the conversation, it turns out to be something completely different. It's just how it manifests in the first moments, and it's completely different. And I have the same experience with book writing. First of all, I always said, I will never write. This is not for me. And that is based on something that I experienced a couple of years ago when I was invited to co-write a book. And I didn't get traction. It didn't move for 1 meter. It didn't work. And so in the end, I said to my book writing partner, I said, I'm really sorry, but I can't do that. I have no inspiration, but I have no energy for it. I have no focus. I was constantly procrastinating. And then based on that, I said, book writing is not for me. And then on the other hand, I write so many articles and I do so many videos with what I want to share. And I said, maybe I should write a book anyway, because there's so many things I want to share. And I started 3 or 4 that I never ended. And it is exactly what you say, because that was not the story I needed to tell. And then a couple of months ago, it all came down to what I really wanted to bring. And the book was written in a flow. It's going to be published in September. But I really recognize what you say. And I believe that it is extremely important for us to reflect on what is it, what message is it that we want to share. Yeah.
100%. And you're right, because when you're not writing the story you're meant to write, it won't flow. When you are writing the story that's supposed to be, it'll just flow like the river. It'll come out, and all of a sudden you'll be like, wow. And a lot of the time it's like, where did that come from? Because I don't feel like I wrote it. And
It's like channels.
it's right. It's your higher self bringing in the information to that have forgotten, but it's there. And you channel it in, and it's amazing. And it's quite often I've done things like that, and I look at it and I go, wow, that's really amazing.
Yeah.
Who wrote that? And then okay, and I just need to tap into my higher self a lot more often.
Yeah.
We all do.
Yeah. Absolutely. And you know what's so interesting? We all have a book in us. I have some series that I'm doing with women leaders. One of them is called the Authentic Leadership Roadshow, and the other one is called the Boundary Breakers Collective Talk Show. And so I invite women to share their personal stories as an encouragement and a source of inspiration for other women. So basically they are role models. And so many of them say when I invite them, I don't know, what do I have to share? And I say, but you have to share so many. You can share your story. And the moment that you allow vulnerability and authenticity in your story, it's magic. And it's a source of inspiration for so many other people. And then sometimes they come completely prepared with scripts and whatever into the interview. And they say, can we keep the script? And I say, yes, of course you can keep the script. And then we start the interview, and then in the end, they say, I didn't use the script. I said, of course not. We're talking about you. You don't need a script for you. You are the expert. You have it. And I feel that a lot of women are way too modest and not aware of their story and the impact that their story can have on other people. It's not about, look at me. It is about, this is something I share with you and with everybody that is feeling related to that, and it can bring you whatever you need in that moment. And with a book, it's the same, right? Writing that book, sharing your story is not something that is about you. It is about how you can serve, how you can share with other people. So how does it come up in your coaching work, Sue?
Look, that's probably one of the main reasons that people don't want to write their book and should write their book, and is because they don't think that they're good enough or their story is good enough. And I'm here to tell you that everyone's story is important, because, and I'm sure it's going to resonate with more than one person, but even if it resonates with just one person and you change that person's life with your story, that takes a ripple effect. And so that actually changes so many other people's lives, their family, friends, and so on. It just ripples out. So you don't actually change one person's life. It's many. But everyone's story is important, and everyone's story will change other people's lives. I just can't stress that enough. And it's the same with like our older generation, for example. Like this, just as an example, that we need to get their stories written, because once they're gone, the story's gone as well. And it would be such a shame, because there's so many things that happened, like even, for instance, in my mother's life, she turns 90 this week. And so there's so many things that happened when she was a child that if you told someone today about it, they'd be like, what? They wouldn't completely understand. I know because she came out into Australia from, I know we're going down a little rabbit hole here, but it's relevant, I think. She migrated out here from Hungary. And when she told me how she crossed the border and the Russian soldiers were there and with guns and whatnot, and she had to run across the border, and it was snowing, and when she didn't realize whether she was still in Hungary or she'd gone across to Yugoslavia. And they came up to her house. It was her and a few other people, and they were talking in Hungarian. So they thought, oh my goodness, we're still in Hungary. And they went, no, you're actually in Yugoslavia. And they cheered and screamed. If you told that to a young person today, they'd be like, oh, there's no way I would do that. And there's no way, what? Russians with guns? Like that would never happen. They wouldn't understand that these kind of things did happen back then. It was very dangerous. And just all the things that she did to survive before she came to Australia, I think that would make great readings. Yeah. It's very
Absolutely.
important. Very
I
important.
do believe indeed that this intergenerational legacy that you can create like that, it's amazing. And I know you don't write only for your family and your friends and for your grandchildren, but still it is something also very relevant to have that documented, basically. I know people who document a lot about their ancestors, and if you can have the writing firsthand and how they experienced that, how they felt that, that must be extremely powerful and inspirational.
Exactly. As business owners, writing a book about what we do and how we came about having our businesses and how we've dealt with different things and explaining whatever business you're in, like that is a handbook for someone. So that, and like the story I just told you about my mother, like that would go down in history, but so would a book about business because it's one that we can grab and go, wow, this is how they dealt with this kind of thing. And it's still relevant today. A lot of it can still be relevant in years to come. So, especially mindset stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. How you deal with adversity and how you build resistance and resilience, how you build resilience and how you, how you how you can be resourceful. And I think especially in those days, this is extremely powerful and extremely important because there's a lot of us that are like in this protect modus where they stay in their comfort zone and they don't want to come out because they feel anxious and they feel uncertain. And these things can give people inspiration, especially if the book is also written in a vulnerable mindset where it's not only about the success and look how, what I have reached but also bringing the steps and the struggles and the workarounds that and the agility in order to to cope with adversity because we are in this world, especially with social media, where everything is put so beautifully, and you have the impression that everybody has the most glamorous and the most happy life, which is absolutely not the case. If you look at the statistics of people who are on medication for depression and anxiety, so if you can have this fresh wind of a story that people can dig into and relate to and see that life is not all about everything going perfect, but it doesn't mean that it is not worthwhile living and worthwhile taking risks, and that there are, in the end, a lot of positive things that you can achieve. And it is mainly also about this self-actualization. Those are beautiful and very important stories. Absolutely. Yeah.
100%. Yeah. The things that we go through will be the thing that the reader reading your book or story is going to go, wow, I didn't think about that and I didn't think to do that. I need to take that on board and give that a try. So there's many books that I've helped people write where that's the case. I've had people read and go, I actually didn't realize that you could do that, or I never thought about doing that. So it's been a great inspiration for me to be able to now take that on board.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, how do you work with women? Let's say there's somebody that says, okay, I feel I have a book in me, but I don't know, should I do this? For example, first of all, English is not my native language. I would want to write it in English, but I'm not sure. And there's so many stories out there already. How will mine be? So on the mindset, what is it that you can offer people in order to show up and to produce that book from a mindset and from a place of confidence?
We have a long conversation, and a lot of the coaching part of it is me brainstorming with them, and just we have discussions and deep discussions about things. And the normal questions that a coach would say is, but what if it wasn't the case? If they don't know if they want to write, but what if you could write the book? and turn it around on its head. But what if you could? And getting them to think deeper on, or what if? What if your story is actually going to be the difference in someone's life? No matter what your story is, your story will make a huge difference. So we do go through limiting beliefs that people have and try to overcome those. But I do also have a process which I think I've spoken to you about, Helena. I use a process called neurographica. And this is where we can actually tap into what's really going on. So it doesn't have to be just about the book. It can be about whatever is going on inside of you that you need to release. And from that, things can start to flow again. So it's an amazing technique that I love to use. And it's a very gentle process. Like I've had some huge ahas with clients as well as myself. Without doing that process, I would never have figured that out. Like as an example, my father wasn't the best father, unfortunately. He did the best he could and knew. But I've always had this thing about money and food, and could never figure out why was I blocking and having problems with this issue. And so what I actually was doing a process with neurographica. And as I was doing it, it dawned on me as it came through when I was doing it and went, oh my goodness, now I understand. Because at one point he used to go away for months at a time and he would take all the money, leave Mum and I with no money, and he would shop up, get a whole heap of groceries, and he would take the groceries as well. So he left us with no money or food every single time. And I'm like, wow, I never, ever connected the two before until I did that process. And then I realized, at the time I just went, oh, yeah, that's just how it is. It never dawned on me. And so now I know that's what it is. I can deal with that now and take the appropriate steps to move forward. Yeah, that was a long way around it, but hopefully that.
No, beautiful. Thank you for sharing. It makes it very understandable in order to how to deblock things by going back to certain patterns that were installed in our childhood, which is we all deal with these. And if we refuse or we are unaware and we don't go back there and really disconnect those events with who we are now and who we want to become, then we keep getting stuck. And this is what everybody knows that. It's just like finding the courage and also finding the right coach to deblock those things. Yeah. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
Yeah. There's another thing in book writing or in writing in general that I am very fond of and I'm promoting also in my work with women leaders, and that is journaling, which is also writing, not really writing to publish, although you never know, but just writing. And there's so many ways of journaling. There's, of course, like the gratitude journaling and the vision journaling, but there's so many ways of journaling just to get it out. Sometimes get it out of your system, get it out of your heads. Sometimes there's a lot of connection between our hands and our brain. And by writing, we give things structure and we create processes also inside to process what happened or what we are scared of or what we are grateful for. Things like that. Does journaling have a place in what you do with writers?
Look, definitely it can help, especially if they are not sort of 100% sure at the beginning. It's nice to be able to just write about things because, as you say, when they do that bit of journaling, there's probably gold that's in those pages of the journaling that they can actually put into the book. One of the biggest tips that I can give people when they're writing is because you briefly mentioned this, is that when you write, just do a brain dump. So just write everything that comes to you. Doesn't matter what it is, just let it all come out because that's where the editing comes in later. You then take out the bits that don't need to be there put in things that do need to go there, move it around if you have to. But the most important thing is to just do the brain dump and let everything out. And I can't stress enough, don't edit as you're writing, because the editing part is using a different part of your brain. And when you switch to that editing mind, you're stopping the flow of your story
Yes, of
coming out.
course. Yeah, because you start judging, right? I hope it's not judging, but I understand what you say. Yeah, you break the flow. Yeah,
You,
that's
you
very good tip. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's really important, because that's when you start doing that, it stops, and then you might as well. The best thing to do is walk away and come back the next day or something, because your flow's gone then, and you're only to be putting out things that probably you're not going to be happy with.
Yeah. Beautiful. What other tips or advice do you have for women leaders that want to express the book they have inside of them?
I think it's really important to, as a business leader, to share your story of what you do, because it's going to allow you to be the authority in what you do and what you specialize in. And I'm telling you that, I did this lots of years ago now. As an example, I went to a networking meeting and I had just written 3 books. And I showed the president, I was the vice president at the time, and I said, "Oh, my 3 books arrived." And she went, "What? Didn't even know you were writing anything." And she jumped up and started the meeting, and she said, "Oh, I've just got a huge announcement. Sue's just written these 3 books." And no joke, everyone afterwards, they were buying the books, they were coming up and talking to me, and I just was like, wow. They saw me in a completely different light. And I thought to myself, had I have known that, I would have done it years ago.
Mm. Yeah.
Really made a huge difference. So people
Yeah.
do look differently when you say, "I've published a book."
Yeah. Why is that? How do they look differently?
Because
What's your experience?
most people understand that it's not an easy process to write a book. It takes a lot of commitment, a lot of hours, and all the different things that go along with it. It's not a 5-minute process. It does take a while. And I've had people that come to me that have been writing for 30 years. As soon as they get to me, we bring that down and we finish it in a few months. They have been writing it for a very long time. And you need to really, hone in and focus on what's important. And where I'm leading with that, was because reason why they also write for so long is because this is another one of my big tips that I like to give people. They don't know where the story ends. So what I always recommend is to write your last chapter first.
Oh, okay.
Write your
Like
last chapter
writing
first.
with the end in mind. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that way
This
you
is
know.
Stephen Covey thing. Yeah. Beautiful.
So, okay, brilliant. I'm glad that I'm up there with him. That's awesome. But yeah, so that when you do write that last chapter, you know where the book's going to end. So it's easier to get the steps that lead up to the end. And you'll finish it a lot easier than without. Because I find that's what a lot of people have trouble with. They're floating. Yeah, I don't know. Where am I going to go with this? And so they then put it aside because they don't have structure. And I love to have structure.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, the reason why so many people came to you and connected with you when it was known that you wrote these books, this is also about credibility and authority, right? I see and I read that people who publish the book build authority with that. And especially for coaches and consultants, having a book is like adding to their portfolio of credibility. So I also believe as business owners, as entrepreneurs, having a book And it can be about your coaching, but it can also be about like you invented something and you created something, or you struggled with something in the process of having your startup launch. Startups is like a big thing right now. And I am very sure that people who could read a book and learn from that experience in order to fuel their own experience, there's so many possibilities that, or so many ways to support other people by writing that book, but also building that authority. I also believe that this is like a boost for your business as such. It's not only serving, it's not only sharing, but it's also a boost for your business, right? Is that also your
100%.
experience? So
100%, because it's pretty much your business card. Like, we don't have
yeah,
business cards anymore. The book is your business card.
yeah,
And a lot of people, and I've had people say to me, oh, as soon as you say, oh, I'm a published author, they're like, oh, and they do. They turn around and look at you in a different light, as opposed to someone that comes along and, oh, no, I haven't written a book. And they're like, oh, okay.
yes,
Yeah, yes, exactly. It's like back in the day when someone had a website and someone didn't have a website. You
yeah,
would go with the person that had the website, because they obviously, you can look at what they do, learn more about them, and you get more of an understanding about them. And to me, that shows that they're the authority, because they've got a
yeah.
website and they're talking about all that stuff. A
Mhm.
book's exactly the same. Probably
Yeah,
better, I think, but anyway.
exactly. Yeah. For those who say as a first step, this is like too much for me, or I don't have the time. Yeah, we know all this. We all know this one. Or I don't have enough. How do you feel about these anthology books where you write like one chapter of a book on a certain theme? Is that maybe a good first step for people who are very hesitant? How do you feel about these books?
Look, yeah, it's entirely up to you. But if you can write one chapter, you can write a few more, is what I'm saying. It's honestly. But the thing I've heard a lot of people that I've spoken to that have done it is, oh, look, I'm glad I did it. I understand that I could actually do it for myself. And I think a lot of people go into it thinking that once I write this chapter in this particular book, that book's going to sell heaps, because it's this company that's creating it and is going to promote it. But they found that is not the case. So, and now there may be ones out there, and I hope that there are, that's not the case. But a lot of the time, that's what people are saying to me. But it is a good step to take if that's what you'd like to try first. But honestly,
Yeah,
as I say, if you can write one chapter,
yeah, yeah.
and you can write
You can
more,
do a lot more.
exactly. And someone
Yeah,
like me can help with that, because if you write that one chapter, we can work on the outline, and all of a
yeah,
sudden you've got all these other chapters you can write.
yeah. Exactly. Exactly. What's your experience when people write one book? Do they continue most
Oh,
of the time, or does it stay with one?
no, most people get addicted and write more, because they like, oh, I could actually now write this. And
Yeah.
just feeling you get, no joke, that I still remember the very first book that I wrote, and I never forget the day that arrived in the post. I cried. I was that proud and happy, and I can still feel, and I know exactly, I remember where I was standing and everything, and I can remember the feeling of getting that book and holding it in my hands. It was the best feeling in the world. And I get that feeling for every book I've done since, as well as for my clients.
Beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. I would also think that's my experience that technology is so advanced now that it's like very easy and at least very supportive if you write a book. I'm thinking about AI to brainstorm or to correct, especially if you write in a language that isn't your mother tongue, or the printing on demand and all these things. So there's a lot of things that really help us. And as I see it, you don't have to invest thousands and thousands of dollars before you can have a book published, because a lot have changed in the world of book publishing. So what do you see as like the benefits, and how can people use that as a resource or as an easier way to get published?
Definitely. No, you look, there are so many tools out there. There really are. And this is why I do what I do, because when I did it the first time, it was quite difficult, and it took a while before I figured out how it all fitted together. And yes, it is a lot easier today, but I think if I was doing it today, I would still want someone holding me accountable and be there to be able to talk to and brainstorm.
Yeah.
But if you don't have the money for that, then you're right. There are tools out there. But one that you didn't mention, which I think is another thing that is helpful, is to get it transcribed. If you can talk, you can write. So if you just record what you're saying and get it transcribed, and there you go, you've got a book.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. Yeah. That's one I'm also playing with right now. I haven't used it yet, because I'm in my process too far to start using it. But there's this tool that is actually recording what you say, but also it is AI supported, and it is creating already with what you say, it is already creating suggestions for how it could look, what it could look like as a book or as an article or as a manuscript or whatever you want to do there. It's
yeah,
amazing how much support there is. It's, of course, important that you still make it yours,
yes.
but there's a lot of support possible. Yes, this transcript, that's a very good idea. Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
and especially as you say, like for people that English is not their first language, it's a great way to do it, because and with the AI assistance, it'll put the words that I know my mum, when she speaks, it comes out back to front sometimes. I know what she means, but someone else mightn't. So that's where, that would fix that problem. So
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, and I have to say, I know some people, I follow them that have recently published books, and when you see the energy that comes with that, you wrote that and you have your baby is born, basically. I wouldn't say you have your product ready, you have your book is ready. And then it is about the launch and how other people are supportive there and how there's created so much energy in the whole launching of the book. It's just amazing to see that and to follow that. So I believe that there's a lot of, again, opportunities to connect with people. If you are a business person or if you are a leader, with colleagues, with other business owners, there's so many openings for conversations once you have your book published, because people are interested, like, how did you come to write this, but also how the topic is relevant for them and what they can learn from it, and you can go deeper. I see a lot of people also do a lot more with the books than just publish them. I mean, you can create communities around them. That's also my intention with my book, to create communities around that, so that people that are really focused on working with the book or working with the content of the book, that there's also other people that do and that, again, publishing or launching a book is not the end of the whole process. That's how I saw. How do you see that with clients? Is that something that is?
Yeah, people do different things. Like one client I had, she ended up, her book was quite, can't say political, but it was when we had our lockdown period, and our states got locked down, and some of the people from up north were locked into our state here. So they're locked out of their state and couldn't get back home. And anyway, this lady collated all these stories and put that into a book. And like from that, she ended up, getting a heap of media attention, TV, radio, newspapers, you name it. It was quite big, because it was a big thing that happened, and it'll go down in history. And hopefully in
Beautiful.
50 years' time or whatever, when someone, and this is relevant to what we were talking about earlier, when someone picks that book up, they'll be like, wow, how did that even happen? And hopefully it'll never happen again. Having a book as well is, you can go and get so many speaking engagements as well, which you can then sell your books, but also pick up clients along the way as well, because and depending on what your book is about, they're going to maybe be so empowered by your story that they want to work with you. So
Exactly. Yeah.
the other thing is running workshops, like have your book, well, depends, could have your story as your main book, and then from that create a workbook, and that workbook can become a workshop. That's another way to utilize it. There's many options.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. So it's not only the book that we have in us, there's a lot more we have in us. Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I love
Yeah.
that thought. Yeah, I love that thought.
Mm.
So what else could we bring to the audience that are maybe probably a little bit more now or a little bit less reluctant and more open to the idea that they can do this, and that I'm not saying it is easy, but it is something that you just can do step by step, and especially guided by a coach? What else is relevant for them to know? What could be the first step?
I think the first step is to understand what you want to write about. And you need to be passionate about it, because that's another thing. If you're not passionate enough about it, and I know that word gets thrown around a lot, but I love it because it, I don't know, goes deep. If you're passionate, then you're going to be motivated and inspired to write that story.
Yeah,
And when you put that kind of love into it, it's going to come out through the pages to that reader. So I think it's really important to write it from a place of love.
yeah. Really to find out what you are passionate about, and keep
Yeah,
that fire burning in order to produce the
ex-
words. Yeah. Yeah.
exactly. And then once you figure out what that is, the next step is to do an outline of what that is going to look like. And that is something that I offer as just a 1 hour session as well for people, where we can just do the outline, and they just do that and nothing else, but at least they get the outline and they can go from
Yeah.
there.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like the framework that you can start writing about. Yeah, I guess that's you really need that in order to know, like you said, in order to have this ending in mind, to know where you want to end, where you want to go to. Absolutely. Yeah.
Bit like when you build a house, you've got to have the foundations. Same
Exactly. Yeah.
with a book, you need the outline.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah. I think those are very good starting points, and I would love to keep it here as an invitation to start with this for everybody that is listening in or watching this conversation and feels these little things inside and coming up. Just start with these 2 steps. I wouldn't say they're baby steps, but they're like the first steps. And I'm sure that what we have talked about here during this conversation are really sources of inspiration and encouragement for you to do that, because we all have a story to tell. And it's basically a way to show up as the women that we are, and how we can impact not only, like Sue said, one woman. There's always this ripple effect that we can impact families or communities or organizations, teams. So it's absolutely worthwhile to get that out and see what's coming from that, because writing that book is like a first step or a next step in a story that is not ending, and that will take you a lot further than you can ever imagine or dream of right now. Just do it. Just bring out that story inside of you. Yeah. Thank you so much for being here, Sue, and for sharing your wisdom and your expertise. I'll make sure that your information is also in the comments so people can get in touch with you, can connect with you to see what you offer. It's also on your website, and you also have a podcast. So there's a lot of inspiration that people can get from you also, because you have also expressed everything you have in you, and you are still doing that. Thank you for that. And looking forward to see what comes from that, and to see maybe a lot of new books produced or launched in the next couple of months or years based on this inspirational conversation. Thank you so much for being here. Also for you listening in and watching the replay or listening to the replay. Thank you for being here, for sticking with us. So just go out and spread your message, and we see you next week. Thanks for now. Bye.
Thank you.
All right. Let me stop the recording.